Hello, welcome back to this week's Kids Church. I'm glad you've decided to join in and watch us for another week. We're still in the book of Judges this week. We're going to be in chapters 4 and 5 today. We're going to continue on through the Judges and the journey of the Israelites. We've seen so many times in the past where the Israelites were doing really well for many years, and then all of a sudden they turned away from God and they were disobedient, and God allowed them to be taken over by a foreign king and foreign military, and now we're going to see that again. Last week we had talked about Ehud and Shamgar, and they had been judges over Israel. Now at this point in Judges chapter 4, they have both died, and the Israelites once again have forgot about God. And God allowed the king of Canaan to take them over. The commander of the king's army was named Sisera. And Sisera was very cruel to the Israelites. And he ruled over the Israelites for 20 years. And God's people, once again, they remembered how good they had it when they were obedient to God. And what do? Again, that's right. They cry out to God again and ask Him to save them. Deborah was the judge over Israel at this time. And one day Deborah called Barak and said, "Hey, God wants you to gather 10,000 soldiers and lead them to the mountain, and God will help you defeat Sisera there." And Barak said to Deborah, "I will go, but I will only go if you go with me." And she said, "Well, I'll go with you, but you will not receive the honor for this victory." And so they went. He took 10,000 men. They went to Mount Tabor. Sisera had heard that Barak and Deborah and the soldiers were there, and so he took his 900 chariots and all of his soldiers, and they took off to go to Mount Tabor. "Barak, go. God will help you defeat Sisera today," Deborah said. And the men, they moved down the mountains, and at this time God allows the soldiers of Sisera to become confused, and they chase him down the mountain, and every single one of those Canaanite soldiers dies by the sword, except for Sisera. And he runs away, he gets away, and he goes to the tent of Jael. And Jael's husband and he were friends, and so she says, "Come on in, don't be afraid." And she gives him something to drink. She gives him a rug and puts over him so that he can sleep, and he falls in a deep sleep. Well, Jael knew that Sisera was not a good person, and she knew that he was an enemy of God. And so she took a tent peg. And at this time, a tent peg was a big metal or wood stake, probably over a foot long, and she got a hammer. And she drove that tent peg through his head, and she killed him. And Barak, about that time, he arrives at Jael's tent, and she greets him, and she says, "Come in, I will show you the man you are looking for." And he walks into her tent, and he sees Sisera laying there dead with that tent peg through his head. That day God allowed the Israelites to defeat the Canaanites. The Israelites had won the battle. Deborah and Barak, they sang and they did a victory dance. They praised God for helping them beat the Canaanites. The land was peaceful for 40 more years. You think the Israelites are going to mess it up again and turn away from God? Well, we're going to find out next week if they do again, as we are still continue in the book of Judges. God does what is for His glory and our good. And we see that in the book of Psalms, and we even see it in Romans 8:28. God fought for the Israelites and used Deborah, Barak, and Jael to defeat the Canaanites. In a similar way, God uses people and events to not only save us from our enemies, but to bring about our ultimate good, salvation through His Son, Jesus Christ. I'm glad to see you. I hope you'll join in again next week for our kids' church. We're getting closer to getting to be back together, and I look forward to that time. Until then, I hope you stay safe and well. Have a great week.